As part of We the People, celebrating 250 years, here's this day in history.
July 4th.
I didn't notice you had the boots on
Got
today.
my boots on today. Yeah, yeah.
That's
no
a good
dress
idea.
Shoes. Yeah.
I have boots too, but mine are a little more dressy than yours.
Yours look nice. Mine are just.
They're functional.
They're functional.
They keep you warm. Yeah.
July 4th, 250 years, our country's birthday. July 4th seems like a long ways away from today, doesn't it?
It seems a very long time away when we're dealing with the wind chills where they are. Yeah.
We got us.
It'll likely feel 110 degrees warmer on July 4th than it does right now.
Putting it that way, that is wild. To think
Maybe
about.
more than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could be 120 degrees warmer July 4th.
Today we're doing We the People. We want to talk about a pretty famous toy that really everyone has grown up with.
Yeah, on this date, January 23rd, 1957, the wham-O toy company produced their first batch of an aerodynamic plastic disc known today as a Frisbee. The origins of the toy date all the way back to 1871 when William Frisbie opened the Frisbie Pie Company. College students would throw the empty pie tins to each other. Then, in 1948, Walter Morrison and a partner invented a plastic version of the disc, which flew farther than the pie tins. Morrison would improve the model a few years later and sold the product to wham-O as the Pluto Platter. The year after the toy's release, in 1957, wham-O changed the name to Frisbee. Since then, the toy has remained virtually unchanged. There have been a few sports, though, born that use the disc. That includes Ultimate Frisbee and Frisbee Golf, both of which are popular in our area. Madison has an Ultimate Frisbee team called the Madison Radicals and has 8 different disc golf courses according to UDisc. That's a stay in history for January 23rd.
Ultimate Frisbee is fun to watch, especially the Radicals. They're pretty cool.
Have you ever played Frisbee golf?
I have.
I have not.
No?
No.
It's hard. You have to know how to throw a Frisbee really well.
Don't they have a course at Elver Park just up the road here?
They have one, and right down the road at, what's the name of the, what is it? There's one in Fitchburg. Fitchburg. They have one in Fitchburg, too.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Vitense.
Vitense has one?
I think so, yeah. Cool. All right, Gabrielle, over to you.